What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker here on Unique Access Entertainment. As always, please hit that subscribe button so I can keep coming to y'all as often as possible with these first and 15ths. Now, today on the first and 15th, man, we've got a lot of going on in the rap world, but one of the things I wanted to talk about was the recent news that Keefe E.D.I had been arrested on September 29th, 2023 for, allegedly being involved in the murder of Tupac Shakur. Of course, Tupac was killed in September of 1996, so this is decades in the making. Now, part of the reason why I want to talk about this here on the 1st and 15th is that maybe some sliver or semblance of justice will, find its place if Keefe E.D.I is indeed found guilty, if the evidence suggests that he is guilty. And that's what the jury decides eventually. But of course, there's nothing that's going to bring Tupac back, and there's nothing that's going to eliminate all the pain that Tupac and all the other people around the world, when they're murdered, that causes their family and their friends. And that's very important, and of course it affects the rap community significantly because of how much the rap community lost creatively, commercially from Tupac. And, as things develop with the Keefe E.D.I situation, I just did want to highlight Tupac was, of course, lauded and is, according to a lot of people, the best rapper of all time. He's the realest, he's this, he's that, and he's been obviously and justifiably written about, documented, discussed ad nauseum, even before he was murdered in Las Vegas. But that doesn't discount the fact that Tupac was an amazing artist who delivered some exceptional work. And as things progress with the legal case, I just wanted to highlight some of these things and mark out some other things that I think are important as things develop in this case and in others. One of which is Tupac's incredible albums. My two favorites of his were Me Against the World from 1995. Man, as I said on a Gangster Chronicles podcast that I was on with Big Steel and MC8, this kind of reminds me of a Scarface album in the sense of it's so introspective, it's full of paranoia, it's very, very dark, and there's a lot of emotions that Tupac does, but it's much more introspective than we get on All Eyes on Me, which is much more outward emotion. Me Against the World is much more inward with If I Die Tonight, So Many Tears, Temptations. Of course, I would say the biggest song and one of the biggest songs in Tupac's career is on Me Against the World, and that's Dear Mama. But then there's Death Around the Corner. It's just a masterful album. The production, generally speaking, is very somber, and Tupac, his writing is so brilliant, and it really takes you into his thoughts, his mind, his feelings, his emotions. And that's why I think this is, if not Tupac's best album, it's definitely one of them. But to me, I think this is his best album. It didn't sell the most, it wasn't the most acclaimed per se by journalists and all that stuff, but for me as a fan, this is the album coming off of Tupacalypse Now, which I thought was excellent, Strictly for My Brothers, which I thought was excellent and better than Tupacalypse Now. By the time we get to Me Against the World, I was like, man, this dude is really, really, really evolving as an artist, delivering amazing material. And of course, by 1995, Tupac had gotten into one of the other things that was making him such a remarkable artist, which was film. Of course, he blew the doors off with his breakthrough Rollin' Juice, and that really just, to me, was a mesmerizing performance, and something that, as I later learned, of course, he was a dramatically trained actor. Shout out to Baltimore School of the Arts, and that gave me a little extra sense of pride being from Maryland and obviously going to Baltimore on a regular basis and spending lots and lots of time there. It was incredible to realize that an artist of such magnitude had gone to school about 20 miles, 20 minutes from where I grew up. So that was pretty remarkable and gave me like a little bit of an extra push, like, oh man, you know, you can do it. And in addition to that, Juice is such a powerful story, but you know, musically, I think by the time Juice comes out in 1992, people knew Tupacalypse Now. People knew his affiliation with Digital Underground, if at all. Some people were just coming into watching Tupac and Juice as an actor and weren't familiar with his music, of course. But those that knew his music knew it was heavily political, dealing with a lot of police brutality and societal injustice. And then Juice was a very different type of character, dealing with, I'd say, more of the rage, the paranoia, the mental issues that, you know, not something that were really pronounced or prominent or discussed on a regular basis at that point in 1992, at least in rap music itself. But, you know, thankfully, thanks to people, I would say mainly Scarface, that really paved the way and made that something that became much more prominent and dominant over the years. Scarface, to me, really putting it down, and then Tupac being another early practitioner of this type of rap. And to me, it really just shows Tupac's evolution and his willingness to explore these dark corners of his psyche, of his life, and of his personality in a way that I think was remarkable at the time, which also ties into his last album that he recorded while he was alive, the Machiavelli album, which dropped posthumously in 1996, but was created when he was alive with Bomb First, of course. You got Hail Mary on there, To Live and Die in LA, Blasphemy, White Man's World. This is another stellar album. Me and My Girlfriend is on there, of course. So creatively, I would say Tupac was, in my opinion, showing additional layers, additional depth, additional range. And this is something that I think is important to highlight, because this ties into the multi-layers, the multi-facets of Tupac as a rapper, as a poet, as an artist, as an actor. And of course, it ties in directly to his activism and to his politics. And that's one of the many hundreds, thousands of tragedies and the layers tied into Tupac's murder that I think need to be addressed, because of course he's famous, of course he's world renowned, but this is the type of thing we lose anytime someone is murdered. Anytime someone dies in general, we lose all these different things, not only for them, but the people around them, their family, their friends, their parents, their daughters, their sons, you know, their brothers or sisters. And that to me is the real tragedy, and something I don't want us to forget. You know, recently I was just hanging out with E.D.I from the Outlaws, and you know, we talk about Pac on a regular basis, but we also just talk about life. And that, you know, E.D., of course, was one of Pac's best friends and spent lots of time with him, has all kinds of family ties to him, and that's just somebody that's just gone. And Tupac, of course, is famous, but we all have known somebody that's died, and that loss hits us all in different ways. And for people around the world who love Tupac's art, this loss has been a significant one. And the Keefe D arrest made me think back to when I was a kid, and when I was hearing about Scott LaRock's death from Boogie Down Productions, and just being very confused, being very disappointed, being very hurt, and realizing that Criminal Minded was this brilliant album showing the 9mm goes bang, the Criminal Minded, the Bridges Over, the South Bronx side, but we also get the poetry side from KRS-One, and just this phenomenal album that leads to the continuation of Boogie Down Productions even after Scott LaRock had been killed. But again, we're losing and have lost so much amazing talent, so many amazing people to violence, and this is another example of it. And sadly, it just continues and continues and continues. And you know, I was also thinking about, if you haven't seen it, watch my interview with Said G from Ultramagnetic. There's the link right there, where he talks about Scott LaRock's getting killed and some of his ideas about what happened, some of which blew my mind, many of which blew my mind. But these are things that last with people for their lifetime, for as long as they're alive. And, of course, more recently, Pop Smoke was a big artist, and sadly, there's dozens of other artists who have been killed. But it's not only that, we're losing people like Juice World, and this is the drugs. And, you know, with these types of things, it's just very sad that there's so many different ways that rap is losing all these great artists, that families are losing these people that are so critical, integral, and significant in their lives. And that's why I want to talk about it on the 1st and 15th, because generally speaking, in the justice system, when you're dealing with the violence side of things, we're a long, long way away from real justice. And that's, partially because of the police, that's partially because of the attorneys that are assigned to these cases or that are hired for these cases, that's partially because of the judges. And of course, that also is partially because of the jurors. But, as everyone watching this hopefully knows and understands and appreciates, the justice system doesn't mete out equal punishment, equal rulings, and these different things, especially if you're not white, and especially if you're not wealthy. And that's something that these type of things with the murder of Tupac and Keefe arrest just made me think about all these different things, because we're never going to eliminate crime. We're never going to eliminate drugs. We're never going to eliminate violence. We're never going to eliminate racism. But I think as a society, as a community in the rap world, and, just overall, I just hope and wish that, this type of thing, maybe this arrest will help in some type of way, provide some people with some closure, if at all. But I just really hope that, generally speaking, we've seen all the pain that comes from murder. We've seen the pain that comes from, someone ODing and dying. And that's stuff that, hopefully as a society, we can do a better job of moving forward. And Keefe D's arrest made me think about all this stuff. So that's what I was thinking about on the 1st and 15th. I appreciate you watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Please hit us up in the comments section and join Unique Access if you haven't already. I'm Soren Baker. You can follow me on all social media at Soren Baker. And I appreciate your support. And, there it is.